Hey there, guys. So, yeah, let's talk about one of the fights that's going to be happening on the Saudi Arabia UK card that's going to be happening in September. And the fight in question is going to be between Josh Kelly and Liam Smith. So, judging from the reaction that I've seen for this fight on social media, and just members of the media and whatnot, this fight is one of the most interesting on the card. Just looking at the whole card, this is one of the most interesting fights. And in my opinion, there are a couple more interesting fights than this. I think the Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson fight, and Anthony Cacace versus Josh Warrington. I think those fights are a lot more interesting than this fight. I think this fight is definitely competitive, and I can see why people are saying that. That it's 50-50 just based on, Liam Smith's last performance, and Josh Kelly's on a winning run. But from a stylistic point of view, I believe Liam Smith is a very bad matchup for Josh Kelly, and I'll discuss why in this video. So yeah, let's get into it. So I've made videos in the past, and I've talked before, just in the past couple of years, about how I believe Adam Booth is one of the worst trainers in the UK. And if you're not familiar with Adam Booth, you think of guys like David Haye, George Groves, Andy Lee, Michael Conlan, obviously Josh Kelly, and you just think of the style that those guys fight. It's pure athleticism. There's no boxing fundamentals. Those guys are just relying on their reflexes, their timing. They're relying on their athletic gifts definitely more than just being well schooled in just boxing fundamentals, fighting beyond the high guard, holding the center of the ring, using the jab. These guys are very flashy. No real traditional guard. Most of the time they're just using head movement. They'll throw the jab from the waist, and it's all about speed, it's all about timing, it's all about reflexes, and it's all about looking flashy. And those guys, that's a very energy intensive style. Obviously if you're going to be moving around the ring that much, these guys, they're usually bouncing around the ring, they're always ducking under shots, so they're really slipping out the way of shots, using excessive head movement, to be honest. A guy using the traditional high guard, who's going to be rolling shots. You think of someone like Subriel Matias, for example, the way he fights behind that high guard, the way he rolls shots. That's not really going to take that much energy. It's not too demanding of his gas tank. But you think of someone look at Michael Conlan versus Luis Alberto Lopez. You just think of the pace that Lopez was applying on Conlan. And you look at how Conlan was trying to slip out of the way of those shots, and he was just trying to move around the ring. Lopez was really able to really apply that pace on Conlan, and obviously he started breaking him down and he forced him to capitulate. And obviously one of the drawbacks of just using head movement, no traditional guard, when you miss time, slip in the shot, when you get the timing wrong, obviously that's going to hit you flush. You haven't really got your glove there to catch a bit of it, or just take the sting out of it. You're going to be taking it bang on the chin. And with this Adam Booth style, obviously, as I mentioned, it's very energy intensive, and it tends to be very vulnerable against guys who apply pressure, and guys who fight in that style tend to fade down the stretch. So you look at, let's take David Haye. He's obviously Adam Booth's most famous fighter. You look at his fight against Carl Thompson, for example. He was absolutely, beating the brakes off Carl Thompson. But he wasn't able to get him out of there, and then he gassed, and Carl Thompson was able to, stop him in the 5th round just because of David Haye's exhaustion. And you can put that down to David Haye's inexperience. It was, I think he had less than 15 fights at that stage of his career, fighting someone who's, so experienced and so seasoned like Carl Thompson. But you look at David Haye when he reached world level, when he fought John Mark Mormek. Mormek, who was like a tough guy, nothing special. He was sort of like European level, who managed to win a world title. You look at that, just how tough a fight he gave David Haye. Just based on his pressure, based on just his toughness. He was able to drop David Haye, I believe, in the 4th round. And he was probably winning the fight at the time that David Haye stopped him. And his pressure was really giving David Haye a lot of problems. And David Haye was starting to tire, and then he was able to find that shot. David Haye was a massive puncher, so he had that get out of jail free card. Just based on his big right hand, his big uppercut, left hook. And similarly, you look at, for example, George Groves when he fought Carl Froch the first time. He was absolutely schooling Carl Froch. He was just beating him up for like 8 rounds. And then obviously he used a lot of energy fighting that style, and Carl Froch was able to come on strong. And obviously it was a BS stoppage from Howard Foster. But I think down the stretch that fight would have been really interesting. I think Carl Froch probably would have stopped George Groves, legitimately. I think it's possible that he could have lost at the distance, but I think Froch might have stopped him late. Just based on how strong Carl was at, in the later part of the fights. Obviously, as I mentioned, you look at Michael Conlan when he fought Lopez, and Lee Wood. Conlan against Lopez, he couldn't really get away from him. Lopez was forcing him to work really hard, and he was throwing those shots from unorthodox angles, and Conlan was just trying to slip out the way of those shots, and he was getting caught like repeatedly and clean. And it was only a matter of time before Lopez stopped him. Conlan did have his fair share of success, but it was only a matter of time. And you look at like the Jordan Gill fight. I know Conlan wasn't under Adam Booth at that time, but he was fighting a fairly similar style. Jordan Gill was just trying to apply pressure. Jordan Gill was like European level, applying steady pressure. Just throwing quite a high volume of shots. He was able to break down Michael Conlan and stop him. And Josh Kelly himself. I mean, you look at his fight against Ray Robinson. In the later rounds, Ray Robinson was winning like every single round. Kelly was like on the ropes constantly, and I believe Ray Robinson probably should have won that fight. And obviously the most plain example when Kelly fought Avanesian. And he started really well. He probably won the first couple of rounds just based on he had those fast explosive shots, but David Avanesian was able to break him down and stop him in the 6th round. So Josh Kelly's someone who has shown that he's definitely liable to fade late in fights. Even when he fought that Argentinian guy, was his name Bastida or something, that guy he fought after his comeback, that was a tough fight. He took about 3 rounds off Josh Kelly, even though that guy's pretty much a high level journeyman. And I think the Avanesian fight really shines out, stands out, and as well the Ray Robinson fight. Josh Kelly is someone who in the early round he always looks fast and explosive. He's always good hand speed, very sharp, explosive. Josh Kelly, he's someone who does have a lot of natural gifts. He's a very good athlete. He's got very fast hands. He can punch a bit, and he was obviously a very good amateur, so he's definitely got something about him. But he started in those fights very fast. He was able to pick up the early rounds against Ray Robinson. He won pretty much the first 4 rounds. And it was the same in the Avanesian fight. He won the first couple of rounds, but just progressively as the fights go on and as these guys apply pressure, Kelly becomes very easy to hit, and he hasn't really got the same power that he had in the first couple of rounds, and he becomes very easy to back up to the ropes, very easy to land on, and stylistically Liam Smith is very similar to David Avanesian. I think Avanesian's a lot more relentless. I think he's a lot more, he's more in your face. I think he's a lot higher paced than Liam Smith. Liam Smith is someone who will take his time in the ring. Look at the Jesse Vargas fight is like a prime example. Liam Smith will tend to start slow. He'll let you tee off on him a bit. Try and tire you out. You'll sort of soak up the shots. But as the fight goes on, you'll really start to increase his volume. You'll really start to put the pressure on. And in the Jesse Vargas fight, Vargas was able to win the first couple of rounds, but Liam Smith was able to break him down. Round by round, he was able to beat him up, and he was able to get the stoppage in the 10th. And I just see the fight going the same way. I just think Kelly will start very fast. He'll look very sharp, very explosive in the first couple of rounds. Liam Smith probably won't be doing that much. I think he'll start applying pressure. He'll be putting that mental pressure on Josh Kelly. He'll be trying to work the body. I think he'll sort of stand there and soak it up a bit. And as the rounds go on, I think Josh Kelly will probably get a lot, he'll tire round by round just based on the pressure. And as Liam Smith starts to up his work rate, I think Josh Kelly will start to get more and more tired as Liam Smith is working that body. And I think by the later rounds, I think this fight will probably be a bit one-sided. I think Liam Smith will be completely on top. I think he'll start to really break down Josh Kelly, and I think he'll probably stop him late. I just don't think Josh Kelly will be able to keep up with Liam Smith's work rate. I don't think he'll be able to keep him off him. And I think this will probably be quite a painful night for Josh Kelly. I think he'll end up getting stopped. And yeah, I just don't see a way that he's going to win this fight unless Liam Smith is like completely washed up or something. If you look at Liam Smith's last fight against Eubank, he obviously he barely threw any punches. Like he threw less than 20 punches in that whole fight probably. Landed less than 20 at least. He obviously wasn't there to win. He made the excuse that he was he was weight trained and whatnot, but look, he won the first fight quite clearly. It's obvious that Eubank's probably not the same fighter he once was, and the establishment couldn't afford to cash him out to Liam Smith that early, so they had to pull a few strings. Liam Smith didn't come to win, and Eubank was able to get the win. But Liam Smith showed in the first Eubank fight that he's clearly got a lot left in the tank, and I think he should probably have a lot more in the tank than Josh Kelly. He's the bigger man. This fight is going to middleweight, I believe. Josh Kelly started at welterweight, and I think Liam Smith will probably be heavier on the night of the fight. And I just think Liam Smith is just a bad style matchup for Josh Kelly, as I mentioned, with the Adam Booth style and whatnot. So I think Liam Smith by a late stoppage is the most likely outcome in this fight, probably around 10 or 11. I think it's probably going to be quite a painful night for Josh Kelly. I think he'll have his success, don't get me wrong. I think in the first 6 rounds he'll probably look pretty good, but as the rounds go on, I think Liam Smith's pressure and just his volume working that body, I think he'll start to tell. I think he'll start to break Josh Kelly down, and I think he'll stop him late. So, let me know what you guys think about this fight in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching, and God bless.